This week's Parsha is Parshas Yisro2. In Parshas Yisro2, we have the monumental event of Ma'amad Har Sinai, the giving of the Torah at Mount Sinai, which made the Jewish people into who they were. God's chosen nation that God chose to give his Torah to. And this event, there's an obligation to remember this event every day of our lives. And we have to realize that despite the fact that when we talk about questions and answers that intrigue us and spark our minds and make us think, all those things are nice and good. But we can't forget the simple things. And that is, we have to visualize to ourselves how Mount Sinai looked like when the Torah was given. That imagery, visualizing and imagining to ourselves the awe-inspiring event itself is so important because we're simple people at heart. If something's going to be imprinted and change our lives, usually we have to see it. As the saying goes, seeing is believing. At Mount Sinai, they had the pillar of smoke that went straight up to the heavens. There was flowers that were surrounding Mount Sinai, despite the fact that Mount Sinai was in the middle of the desert. There was a shofar blast. There were sounds that we could see, whatever that means. There was thunder and lightning. There was a tremendous portrayal of God's strength, a physical manifestation of his strength. And we have an obligation to visualize that every day because we are people who are influenced primarily by things we see, not by thoughts that we think. No matter how interesting and complicated and brilliant they may be, imagery is what's going to make a difference in our lives. And this concept holds true in many different areas. Another place we see this is that we have an obligation on Seder night to see ourselves as if we ourselves were slaves in Egypt and we ourselves were freed from Egypt. Imagine the backbreaking labor, imagine what it would do to your household, and imagine the happiness and sheer jubilation from being freed from those circumstances, just the simple circumstances of your entire nation being enslaved to a dominating nation. Another place where we find this idea is that when we daven. Chaim Volozhin says that when we daven, half of the importance of davening is the words, but the other half is the fact that we're visualizing to ourselves God standing before us. Know before whom you stand. You have the privilege of having a conversation with God. And more important than saying every single word and understanding every single word is understanding who you're standing in front of, what the purpose of this entire procedure is to visualize yourself before God and have a conversation, have a give and take. That's the purpose. And this is the reason why in Devarim, in Parshas Kisava, it says the following words. It says, Haskesu Shema Yisrael, see and listen, Israel, referring to the Jewish people. In order for us to understand and to feel our Judaism, we have to imagine to ourselves these events. We have to imagine God in front of us. We have to see and visualize these things, use our imagination, because that's what's going to make a difference. If we see it, if we try to see it in our minds, then we're going to believe and then we're going to trust. And that is a very important concept despite its simplicity. Quick question on this week's Parsha. In the Ten Commandments, of course, we have the mitzvah of Shabbos. And the verse uses the following language. It says, Sheishes yamim tava v'asisa kol malachtecha. 6 days of the week you shall work. You should pursue your profession, your occupation. Asisa kol malachtecha, and do all of your work. Finish all of your work. The question is very simple. There is not one profession, occupation, any type of means of income that a person could say that on Friday afternoon, when Shabbos is about to enter, that I'm totally finished with my work. The nature of work is that you have continuing clients, continuing projects. You're always in the midst of doing something where Shabbos is the interruption. So how are we to understand the verse that states that 6 days a week you shall work, and then and do all of your work. Finish all of your work. No one ever finishes their work. The nature of work, the nature of a profession, is that it continues. Have a good Shabbos.